you should be eating enough fiber. And I know, it's not as sexy as protein, making you feel strong, beautiful, lean, and all these other things. But with the rates of colon cancer going up, the fact that 90% of Americans don't reach their recommended fiber intake, and just the fact that we all need to poop better, I'm gonna make the case to help you understand why you need to eat some more fiber. This video is going to be perfect for you if you're kind of confused about all of the nutrition information in the world. You're swiping and you're seeing all of this stuff and you don't really know what to be doing or who to be listening for. I'm going to break down the who, why, when, where, what. Maybe not what or who, but I'm going to be breaking down all of the things that you need to know about fiber so that you can get some more into your day-to-day eating and how to get some more in your day-to-day eating. Let's jump into it. Let's start with the basics. What is fiber? The way I like to describe it to my clients essentially is it's the indigestible parts of a plant. So basically that means any plant that we eat will have some fiber. Some have more, some have less, but at the end of the day, any plant has fiber because it's the undigestible part. The USDA defines fiber as a type of carbohydrate made up of many sugar molecules linked together. But unlike other carbohydrates, dietary fiber is bound together in such a way that it cannot be easily digested in the small intestine. And that last bit is why fiber is so important. Because it cannot be digested easily by the small intestine, it is supportive in our gut health, it's supportive in our poop health, it's supportive in so many ways, but we're gonna get into that in a bit. When it comes to understanding what is fiber, I also want you to understand that there's two types of fiber. There's soluble and insoluble fiber. What I want you to remember is that soluble kind of breaks down and insoluble does not break down. Hence, corn in our poop. Soluble fiber foods are going to be foods that break down into a gel-like substance, while insoluble foods will remain kind of intact throughout the digestive system. Both are important when we're considering our intake of fiber, and some foods have both insoluble and soluble fiber, which makes them a super great candidate to be put on your plate. We're gonna go over what types of foods they are in a bit, but I just want you to remember that there's two categories and we wanna make sure we get a good variety of both categories in our day-to-day eating. Now that we've gone over the types of fiber and what fiber is, let's talk about why fiber is important. The number one thing that you might think of when you hear fiber is our bowel movements. And I have no shame talking about bowel movements with my clients because it's a super important part of understanding what's going on and how your day-to-day life is. So when we're thinking about fiber, I'm sure you've heard, and let me know in the comments if it's you've heard that fiber is super helpful for making you poop better. And this is totally true because of what we kind of just went over, that there's two types, they don't digest. And so the role of fiber is to increase bulk, so make it that our poops are poopier, and to make our poops easier to pass. So if we have something like constipation, theoretically, fiber can be supportive in alleviating constipation. However, there are some indications where you might be constipated by eating fiber and constipation not getting better because of fiber. That's something that we'll talk about in a bit. But in a general sense, if a lack of fiber is present in the diet, constipation can be alleviated by having more fiber. On top of that, fiber is important because there's just so much delicious, tasty research that shows how important it can be for preventing chronic conditions, supporting the prevention of cardiovascular diseases, cancers, even inflammation. The Harvard School of Public Health stated that fiber appears to lower the risk of developing various conditions, including heart disease, diabetes, diverticulitis, constipation. Fiber's beneficial role in the gut microbiome may produce anti-inflammatory effects that alleviate chronic inflammation associated with these conditions. All of that to say, fiber is that girl, and you should not be neglecting her on your plate because she can really transform the things that are going on inside when it comes to your day-to-day feeling and breathing and being able to do things in the body. What I like to tell my clients is part of the job is the liver is to like clean everything out, and we want to make the job of the liver easier by having ample fiber, because fiber helps clean things up. Fiber helps get things going. Fiber helps keep things going along, and it also helps with feeling full, satisfied, satiated in our meals as well, which is super important when we're thinking about our day-to-day eating. And with medications like GLP-1, where there's a lot of things going on. I'm not going to talk about GLP-1s in this video real quick, but with my clients that I see that are on GLP-1 medications, we want to make sure that their meals are filling, because in some cases we're going to be eating less because of the medication. So we want those meals to be supportive of your gut microbiome to help make sure that you're pooping, feeling full, satisfied, and getting things flowing and going. Another reason that fiber is important is because we simply don't get enough of it. If we look at the states of fiber intake across populations, we can see that across the board, Americans are not meeting their recommended intake of fiber, and this can cause big problems accompanied with a sedentary lifestyle, lack of adequate hydration. We can create a really big problem in our digestive system that then can manifest into all these different chronic conditions. On top of having a conversation about like accessibility to food and accessibility of time to prepare food, that's a whole separate conversation. But all of that plays a role in someone's ability to eat fiber and gets enough fiber in their day-to-day eating. But because we have so little of it, it becomes even more important to eat it, taking into consideration all of the amazing properties that it has that we already discussed. And recently I was listening to a podcast, I think It's Been a Minute, and they were talking about the increased rates of cancer among young adults. Usually when we think of colorectal cancer, let me know in the comments what you think when you think of colorectal cancer. We typically associate that with an older adult condition or disease development. And what they're finding now is more and more younger adults are being diagnosed with colorectal cancer for many reasons. One of the reasons was about how we don't bring it up, like in intake with doctors. Maybe there's poop shame, so we don't talk about our bowel movements with our doctors, or it's not even asked. So all of these opportunities to kind of gain information about how someone's bowels are functioning are missed. So by the time we have symptoms of colorectal cancer, it's kind of diagnosed pretty late because there's a lot of taboo around poop talk. This is a poop-free shame zone. Like, you could talk about poop. I think it's so important for everyone to talk about poop. In my intake, I always ask about it because I need to see that everything's okay from what you're doing. And I encourage my clients to also kind of look back at it, just to make sure that their bowels are okay as well. When it comes to colorectal cancer, also part of it, again, is contributed to the sedentary lifestyle, lack of fiber, and inadequate hydration intake. So those are things to keep in mind to remind ourselves why fiber is so important. And if we're thinking about chronic conditions, like let's say we have elevated LDL cholesterol, that's a place where fiber can really be supportive, because fiber is essentially the tool that's going to help clean up that LDL. So what I like to give the visual to my clients is, if we're thinking of like a tunnel and there's a garbage man kind of coming to clean up the tunnel, fiber is the garbage man picking up that LDL and getting it out of the bloodstream. And that's essentially what soluble fiber does. The foods that are rich in soluble fiber are going to be supportive in getting that garbage man working overtime to clean up the LDL, so that when you go get your labs done with your doctor, those lab values are a little bit lower, hopefully. Insoluble fiber, on the other hand, doesn't work that way, but it does help promote better stools. Because it can't digest, what it does is it creates bulk. It's like filling up I don't really have a good analogy for this right now in the top of my head right now, but it's filling up the bulk so that it's easier to pass. Like if we're thinking about making a nice soil mixture and we want to put that like white styrofoam stuff, that's what we can kind of picture fiber to be like, where it's creating like pockets of air and movement because it can't break down. So our stool is easier to pass and more bulkier, which is also like exercising, you could say, those parts of our digestive system. Because our digestive system is like a big tube, right? Very long tube. And we need to pass all of our food through that tube. Like, I don't really remember how long it is, but the digestive system is long. So we need to have enough bulk in there to move things along. And fiber that is insoluble helps move things along because it's like filling up that air pocket and being like, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. And again, we need to have both types of fiber because they keep you full, satisfied longer. If we're thinking about conditions where blood sugar is important, thinking about like diabetes, PCOS, other conditions like that, we want to have stable blood sugars, and making sure that our meals are rich with fiber will also promote that. Because they can't be digested, they're going to be taking longer to be in the body and slow down the digestion of everything, which will be supportive of your blood sugar as well. So let me know in the comments, what have you heard about fiber that makes it so important to eat? I'm curious and I would love to know what people have been telling you about fiber. Now let's talk about who needs to eat fiber. In short, everyone, right? If we're thinking about it at a population level, everyone needs to eat fiber. However, there are some chronic conditions where having more fiber is contraindicated. Basically, we don't recommend having a lot of fiber. For those types of conditions, we want to make sure that you're meeting with your care team to get that individualized support that you may need. But if we're looking again at a population level, we can see that with the current intake of 31 to 59-year-olds across the board, we're not getting our recommended intake of fruits, veggies, whole grains. So what we really want to do is make sure that we're getting a variety of those foods in our day-to-day eating to help us meet the requirement. This data is from the Dietary Guidelines of America. Basically, it's this really big workbook that provides the recommendations of what we should be eating. And in there, it's a lot of information, but what we can see time and time and again is that Americans are not reaching their recommended intake of these foods that are rich in many vitamins and minerals, but are also rich in fiber, right? We really need to have that fiber. Other people that might benefit from fiber is folks that might be suffering from constipation. But I want to put a pin in this, because if you're suffering from constipation and you talk to your doctors and everything about it, and you increase fiber and it's not getting better, there's a few things there that as a dietitian, I'm like, we need to do a little bit more investigating. That's why getting one-on-one support is super important. But some things that could be the case that could make constipation a little bit worse with fiber intake is maybe we started eating too much fiber right away. Like, again, the digestive system is so long and we can't just dump a bunch of fiber in there if it's not used to it. So we kind of want to build up our intake of fiber. And other things that we want to be mindful of is our hydration and our movement. Water really makes it easier for that bulk to move along. And if we're not having enough water, it can get stuck, essentially. And movement helps us move our organs around. So if we're having a lot of fiber, not drinking enough water, and sitting down all day, like, yes, I'm glad that you did that, but you might be in pain. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking like, oh yes, I'm about to eat some fiber, I do want you to keep that into consideration so that you're not getting in discomfort or in any kind of way. And let me know in the comments, do you feel like you're getting enough fiber? Do you feel like you're not getting enough fiber? What are some things that your body's kind of telling you that might be an indication that you might not be getting enough fiber? I'm curious. I'm always curious. Now that we've gotten a pretty clear, hopefully, understanding of fiber, let's talk about how much you actually need in a day and where to find it. So according to the Dietary Guidelines of Americans, it's recommended that for every 1,000 calories that we eat, we have about 14 grams of fiber. So if we're eating about 2,000 calories in a day, we should be getting close to 28 grams of fiber. I personally like to round that down to 30 grams of fiber a day, and making room for more if you can fit it in. But 28 is the number based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So if you are eating more than 2,000 calories in a day, which a lot of people could be, doing, we want to make sure that we're having more fiber to complement that. If we're trying to get 28 to 30 grams of fiber in a day, where are we going to get them from? In short, we're going to get them from, again, all plant foods. So our beans, nuts, seeds, whole grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables. All of these foods are going to have all different kinds of fiber, and that's super great. Again, we want to have diversity or variety in our food group because that's going to be supportive in feeding your gut bacteria, which will then be supportive for your overall immune health. So we want to have a variety. That's why some people will recommend having whole grain foods, because you'll get a little bit of fiber there. So like our whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, all of those things can be supportive in amping up your fiber a little bit chingachi. And this is where we kind of are able to see which foods fall into which categories when it comes to soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Some examples of insoluble fiber are foods like ground flaxseed, wheat bran, nuts, seeds, cauliflower, green beans, some leafy greens, fruits and vegetables with the skin, whole grains, brown rice, things like corn. And soluble fiber are going to be things like our oats, barley, legumes, chia seeds, apples, pears, oranges, grapefruit, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, avocado, psyllium husk, and supplements for the most part. And you can best understand like soluble and insoluble fiber with the types of foods like chia seed. Like you can see that chia seed turns into a gel when you eat it, gel-like substance, soluble fiber. Oats get super thick if you like cook them or let them sit for too long. Soluble fiber, gel-like substance. Insoluble fiber, corn. When we look at our poop and we see the corn husk, like the part of the corn kernel is still there, didn't break down. Leafy greens, we can see some of that in our stool too sometimes. Insoluble fiber. Nuts and seeds, pepper skins, tomato skins, all of those things cannot be broken down. You'll find them in your stool, insoluble fiber. I hope being able to see like that makes sense for you and helps you kind of categorize them. But big picture thinking is that we just want a mix of all fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, and whole grains as much as we can throughout the day, however you can fit it in. When it comes to all the types of fiber, let me know which is your favorite, which one you tend to gravitate towards, how you feel when you eat your fiber. There are a little bit of differences in terms of like how insoluble fiber could make your body feel. Like too much insoluble fiber can have you running to the bathroom because it's like too many things going in there. So again, we want to have a balance. We want to have a balance of all of the food groups, and we want to have a balance of the different types of fiber spread throughout the day, not just in one meal, especially not just in one meal, because that can cause bloating, indigestion, discomfort, like all of these things. And I don't want you to be complaining about that or feeling that. And if you are feeling those things, I hope that you are able to communicate that with your doctor, your care team, so that they can find a solution that works for you so you feel a little bit better. So now let's talk about how we can get some more fiber in our day-to-day eating. The best part, right? Like now we understood all the science, we understood the who, the what, the why, whatever. Now let's talk about how. How can we actually do this? When it comes to adding more fiber, we want to be like Usher and we want to take it nice and slow, but we don't even want to do. We want to take it nice and slow because it can be very upsetting for the digestive system to have an influx of fiber. So let's do an example, something that I would do with my clients if I was working with them one-on-one. Let's say for breakfast every day you have a boiled egg. You are a boiled egg queen and you be eating your boiled eggs every day. Perfect, right? We're getting protein and that's it. But we're getting some protein and some fat, you know. My suggestion, if I was working with a client that had boiled eggs every day, would be, let's see if we can add some fiber to that. Maybe we can add some berries. My favorite are blackberries. So maybe we can add some blackberries to our little breakfast snack of the boiled eggs, and then we can introduce 7 grams of fiber with 1 cup. Maybe 1 cup's too much, right? Like we're not really eating fiber throughout the day or not enough. Maybe 1 cup's too much. We do half a cup gives you about 3-ish grams, 3 to 3.5 grams of fiber. Great, perfect. And we want to see how the body feels, make sure that we're hydrating, and keep dripping bits of fiber throughout the day, chin-a-chin, day by day, until we work ourselves up to the 28 and we feel good. 30, again, is easier for me to remember, for my clients to remember. 30. Other examples that kind of come up in sessions is like, let's say we're having a snack for lunch, or midday snack rather, and we're having chips. It's like, great, fantastic, carbohydrates, quick energy, love it. What can we add that might promote a little bit more fiber into that snack? Easy answer for me is gonna be some dip, right? Like maybe we can have a salsa that'll give us a little bit of fiber from the tomatoes. Bonus, if we get one of those salsas that have corn and beans in them, then we're really up in the game, right? So it's important to be able to keep the things that you like to eat and just find ways to introduce more with the things that you're eating, so it doesn't feel like, oh, estoy comiendo esto y ahora tengo que comer healthy. Like, no, you don't gotta eat healthy, you just have to eat, and we wanna try to incorporate more whatever it is in your diet, in this case fiber. When it comes to increasing your intake of fiber, I don't want you to sleep on your tiny but mighty sources of fiber, aka your nuts and your seeds. Baby girl, you could be sprinkling that on stuff and boost up your fiber in no time. And do that throughout the day. You be getting 30 in no time, girl, okay? 30 where? 30 so easy. Let me do 35. An example is chia seed. Chia seed is all the rave. Cue that chia seed, whatever they call it on TikTok, that they be overdoing it with the chia seed. 1 tablespoon of chia seed gives you 4 grams of fiber. That's a lot. That's a lot, right? And I say it's a lot because the goal is to get to 30. So we don't want to get like 15. We don't want to see these big numbers. We want to see small numbers consistently throughout the day so that you're able to consistently keep up with it and consistently go to the bathroom and consistently hit your target of fiber throughout the day. Consistent blood sugar because you're getting enough, like nice and slow. Usher, right? We want to do the usher. We want to do the usher. Watch this, right? We want to do usher. I mean, that's not what I meant. But we want to take it nice and slow. So a little tablespoon in your oatmeal, a little tablespoon in your smoothie. That's gonna have lots of fiber if you're adding vegetables. A little tablespoon. My favorite tip for getting in some fiber is like if you are a jelly girl. I'm a jelly girl, jelly jam. I'm that girl. You put some you put some chia seed in the jelly, you mix it up. You got some jam with some fiber in there. Spread that on some toast. You got some toast that has a little bit more fiber because you got that jelly chia seed situation going on. So don't sleep on the tiny but mighty sources of fiber like your nuts and seeds. Another example is ground flaxseed. We grew up eating that for whatever reason. My mom was really hip on the game when it came to foods. She also said that she saw a dietitian growing up. I didn't know what a dietitian was while she was seeing one. So it's funny that I ended up becoming one, but that's a story for another time. What I want to say is that our ground flaxseed is also one of those things that you can just sprinkle on top. You can sprinkle it in your yogurt, sprinkle it in your oatmeal, sprinkle it in your spreads, sprinkle it on your pasta. Like, I don't care where you sprinkle in it. Just sprinkle it, right? And about 2 tablespoons gives you about 3 grams of fiber. So we can see how introducing these small but mighty sources of fiber can help get you closer to that 30 chin-a-chi. Nice and slow. Usher remix. Other things that can be supportive in helping you reach your recommended intake of fiber could be fiber supplementation. Metamucil, Benefiber, those are all great supplements that we can include in our day-to-day eating to be supportive of your intake of fiber. They both have clear options now, which can be mixed into any beverage, which is super convenient for folks. I recommend it to clients from time to time to help get that. Depending on what you're drinking, it could get you like 5 grams of fiber, which is pretty okay. Like if we're going back to that breakfast example, like boiled eggs and yogurt, having a little fiber drink, great, perfect. And the water helps keep it a little bit more hydrating. Other drinks that are fiber rich are gonna be Vibey, Poppy, Olipop. I'm an Olipop girl and a Vibey girl. The Vibey is really good in terms of getting that stuff flowing and going. But all of those drinks can be supportive in helping you reach your recommended intake of fiber. However, I want to say that supplementation shouldn't be the first choice for getting your fiber intake. We should be first getting or trying to get our nutrients in general from food and supplement with supplementations. So keep that in mind if you're trying to have some fiber rich food. So we really want to try to prioritize getting our fiber in from foods and using supplementation to just help get that last like push in there. And again, when we're thinking about adding more fiber in our day-to-day eating, we do want to 100% make sure that we're getting adequate hydration and adequate movement, because those things really help your stool move along, help balance the amount of like hydration is in the digestive system and in your body to prevent things like bloating or discomfort. So we don't want to skimp out on that at all. The recommended intake for water depends on you and your body. Things that you can pay attention to for hydration is like the color of your urine, how your hands and skin feel, if your mouth feels cotton mouthy, those kinds of things. But when it comes to preventing any problems that can come with starting to increase your intake of fiber, if you're going to aggressively, we want to make sure that you're having ample hydration and ample movement. And last but not least, when it comes to fiber, again, we want to try to have as much variety as possible, because that's going to be supportive of all of the different benefits that fiber has, from feeding your gut bacteria, helping your cholesterol, helping you poop better, helping you feel better. Well, yes, feel better, but feel fuller, longer, and better. Like all of these things can be attributed to your increased intake of fiber, but we want to make sure you're getting a variety of different kinds of fiber. So that's pretty much it. We went over what is fiber, why it's important, how to get it, who needs it, how much you need. I think we covered all the basics. If there's any other questions that you have about fiber that I didn't address, please leave them in the comments. I'll make another video. I love talking about fiber, and I'll be following up this video with a day in the life of eating, getting 30 grams of fiber in a day. So keep your eyes out for that video. Subscribe to the newsletter so you can be the first one to know when it's available. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please feel free to share. And if you love this video, YouTube and I think you'll love this next video. Thanks for watching. I love you so much. See you next time. Love you. Bye.